Good afternoon, and thank you, Governor. I'd also like to start by thanking Secretary Heffernan and the A&F team. He did an amazing job once again, many hours here, away from family, weekends, and time to put this budget together. We are very grateful for your commitments. As you all know, at the outset of our administration, we promised the cities and towns that they would have a seat at our table and that we would work hard to form a very strong partnership between state and local government. We also promised, relative to local aid, that we would increase aid to cities and towns consistent with the projected growth in tax revenues. Our commitment to local aid was part of that effort, and with this budget, we are proud to say that we again have followed through with that promise. With our fiscal 23 budget proposal, we are maintaining the commitment we made. And to that end, we are proposing an increase of $31.5 million in local aid for a total investment of $1.2 billion. Our budget proposals continue to match the growth in local aid with projected increases in state revenue, even as the Commonwealth navigated fiscal challenges earlier in our administration. In 2015, our administration launched the Community Compact Cabinet Program, which I have been proud to chair and lead for our administration, along with the Cabinet of Secretaries that we have obviously worked very closely with in our administration to make sure that they were equally accessible to the communities of our Commonwealth. We developed a best practice program between state and municipal government, and through this effort, we've engaged with all of our communities, all 351, to provide $35.9 million in operating and capital grants to municipalities to fund improvements to local operations, programs, and services and infrastructure. With this year's budget proposal, we are proposing $6 million for the Community Compact Program, an increase of $2.4 million over fiscal 22. This funding will increase support for cities and towns working to develop best practices across a wide range of areas, from economic development planning to financial planning to wage classifications, all the technical and important things to strengthen municipal governance and municipal services. The budget also includes $4.8 million for the Public Safety Staffing Grant Program managed by Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, and $3 million for the District Local Technical Assistance Program. Next, I want to talk about our continued efforts through the budget process to support providers that address sexual assault and domestic violence here in our Commonwealth. Throughout the pandemic, our administration redoubled our efforts to partner with providers in the advocacy community to support survivors, knowing that in a pandemic, when we talked a lot about being safer at home, we knew that people that are in violent situations were not safer in home because of their circumstances. So we expanded our efforts in this area. The expansion and promotion of the statewide 24/7 domestic violence hotline, known as SafeLink, to triage calls to local area rape crisis centers, standing up 6 isolation and recovery sites for individuals in shelters who tested positive for COVID-19, distributing personal protective equipment, PPE, and cleaning supplies to providers, and creating appropriate health and safety policies for sexual and domestic violence providers, giving them all the support that they needed to continue to provide the important services throughout our Commonwealth. This budget, once again, significantly boosts resources for sexual assault, domestic violence resources. This budget represents a 13% increase compared to the current fiscal year, and a 91% increase since 2015. 91% increase since 2015. That's obviously a major commitment and an important one for our administration. $56 million to support domestic violence and sexual assault prevention and survivor services, $42.9 million for shelter services and housing assistance for individuals and families who are survivors or are at risk of domestic abuse in their current living situations, $7.9 million for statewide sexual assault nurse examiner programs, $1.9 million for DCF to support families involved in domestic violence incidents and the Sexual Abuse Intervention Network. $2 million to expand services for survivors of human trafficking, including $1 million through the Safe and Successful Youth Program and $1 million in a new appropriation in the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. $1 million to fund a youth-focused grant program known as Respectfully, promoting healthy relationships and preventing dating violence, a continued effort of our administration. I also want to highlight that this budget provides resources for economic development, and specifically for small businesses. In December, Governor Baker signed an ARPA spending plan that provides $75 million in grants for small businesses with a specific focus on businesses reaching underserved markets and minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. This mirrors the approach we took about a year ago in distributing our $700 million to small businesses all across our Commonwealth in a rapid and very efficient manner. And as we put these new ARPA relief dollars to work, we know there is continued need for technical assistance. We not only can provide the resource, but we want to help businesses apply and receive those resources for their business growth and expansion. Our budget includes $4 million for the Small Business Technical Assistance Grant Program to help an estimated of 1,500 to 2,000 entrepreneurs and small businesses, especially those owned by women, immigrants, veterans, and people of color all across our Commonwealth. It also includes $7.5 million for the Community Empowerment and Reinvestment Grant Program to support development in socially and economically disadvantaged communities. And these technical assistance resources will complement the previous and new relief dollars so that we can continue to ensure that small businesses grow and thrive, populate our downtowns and main streets as they continue to be a very big part of how we provide jobs and work and dollars locally to our communities. So with that, I would now like to turn it over to Secretary Heffernan.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I'd first like to thank the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor for their steadfast leadership throughout the fiscal 23 budget process and throughout the last 7 years. It's an honor to serve this administration, and I am very proud of the work we've done on behalf of the people of the Commonwealth. I'd also like to highlight the incredible work of our Budget Director, Brand Shin, and his entire A&F team, Assistant Directors Olivia Graham and Olivia McCaffrey, and our hardworking team of budget analysts. And a big thank you as well to our dedicated legal team for their tireless efforts. The Governor and the Lieutenant Governor have gone through many of the highlights of our budget proposal, so I will briefly outline some of the notable fiscal aspects of this recommendation and provide more detail on two of the tax proposals that the Governor mentioned. House 2 proposes to spend $48.5 billion in gross spending and is based on consensus tax revenue estimates of $36.915 billion, which is a 2.7% increase above recently revised fiscal 22 revenue projections. This spending level is approximately a 0.5% increase above fiscal 22, which is largely driven by anticipated decreasing caseloads and costs at Mass Health in the quarters following the expiration of the federal public health emergency. House 2 continues the administration's work in collaboration with the legislature over the past 7 years to maintain fiscal responsibility, which has enabled us to bring budgets into structural balance and to grow the Stabilization Fund each year since 2015. Even through the challenges of the pandemic, that the pandemic has wrought. A special shout out to Aaron Mikowitz and Mike Rodricks, my always reliable partners at House Ways and Means in responsible and sustainable budgeting. As the Governor mentioned, the Stabilization Fund is more than 4 times larger than when the administration came into office and currently sits at a balance of $4.64 billion. House 2 includes an anticipated $749 million increase to the Stabilization Fund, which in combination with expected fiscal 22 transfers will bring the balance to $6.64 billion by the end of fiscal 23, another all-time high. We are incredibly proud of this achievement that will leave the Commonwealth with reserves to safeguard critical services in the future. The fiscal 23 budget we propose protects core services while making meaningful investments to improve housing stability, support education, promote economic and workforce development, and expand healthcare services and equity. As the Lieutenant Governor shared, we are also continuing our commitment to support local cities and towns with another increase in local aid consistent with this 2.7% increase in consensus tax revenue and significant increases in grant programs, including those through the Community Compact program. The Commonwealth's economy has proven to be resilient even through the pandemic. The healthy revenues we've experienced, in combination with continued careful management of state and federal COVID response dollars, have positioned us to provide even more relief for Massachusetts taxpayers. As the governor discussed, our companion tax proposal will reduce the tax burden for hundreds of thousands of hardworking families and low-income residents starting immediately in tax year 2022. And we're proposing two measures that will more align the Commonwealth with many other states in the U.S. to support our competitiveness and encourage our citizens to continue calling Massachusetts home. These proposals will, one, reduce the short-term capital gains rate to 5%, in line with our other income tax rates, from its current rate of 12%. More than 150 filers across every income level paid short-term capital gains tax. Did I say? 150,000, sorry, across every income level in 2019. This is markedly uncompetitive compared with the rest of the country and acts like a penalty to the 60,000 middle-income investors who get hit with this tax every year. And this, because it's capital gains, has zero impact to the fiscal 23 budget. We are also proposing doubling the estate tax threshold from $1 million to $2 million and eliminating the current cliff effects, which taxes the full amount below the threshold once it's been triggered. Massachusetts is one of only 17 states and the District of Columbia with some form of an estate tax or inheritance tax. And at the current $1 million threshold, the Commonwealth is tied with the state of Oregon for the least competitive and lowest dollar exemption threshold in the country. All of these tax proposals we put forth, in addition to a supplemental $250 million deposit into the pension system, are fully accounted for within our fiscal 23 proposal. Our ability to responsibly manage the budget over the past 7 years and to respond to the challenges of COVID-19 in the past 2 have been made possible by our strong partnership with the legislature. We look forward to continuing these collaborations with our legislative colleagues to adopt a fiscally sound and impactful spending plan for fiscal 23 and to deliver relief to the residents across the Commonwealth that will help our families and communities thrive. Thank you.